Good day, everyone. Hi, I am Stephen May El Pactao, an engineering sophomore student at Mindanao State University Main Campus, Batarasa Extension. Today, I was tasked to discuss with you things I know about the Roman art. Shall we start? For the beginning of our discussion, allow me to partake to you some facts about the Roman Empire and the Roman art. First, Roman art is important primarily because it was used to depict the values with the purpose of publicity by the Romans. Art was often used to glorify Rome's rulers and to celebrate Rome's military victories. The Hellenistic world, forged by the Alexander the Great's conquests, was absorbed by the Roman expansionism in the first century before Christ's era, when Greece and Asia Minor were added to the Roman Empire. Second, Greek art certainly had a powerful influence on Roman practice. The Roman poet Horace famously said that Greece, the captive, took her savage victor captive, meaning that Rome, though it conquered Greece, adopted much of Greece's cultural and artistic heritage, as well as importing many of its most famous works. Some Greeks were captured and kept as slaves by the Romans. The slaves were used to make sculptures and paintings for the Romans. The Romans were especially influenced by the art of the Greeks. In fact, historians often speak of the Greco-Roman art. Third, Roman sculptors adopted Greek forms and techniques, while in philosophy, the upper classes espoused the Hellenistic ethical philosophies of Marcus Aurelius Antoninus and the Epicureanism of Epicurus. Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, a Roman emperor from 161 to 180 in the year of the Lord, and a Stoic philosopher, such as first Stoicism, with its ideals of calm resignation, which helps people become resilient and calm when facing adversity and hardship, and the fortitude, strength of mind that enables a person to encounter danger or bear pain or adversity with courage. Also, Epicureanism, the philosophy taught by Epicurus, an ancient Greek philosopher and sage who founded Epicureanism, with its motivating principle of pleasure, argues that pleasure was the chief good in life. Next, the main difference between Roman art and the Greek art was the purpose the art was meant to serve. Greek art was idealized, while the Roman art tended to be realistic. Ancient Greek artists were more focused on individualism and idealism and had a great appreciation for aesthetic beauty and the philosophical theory behind it, whereas ancient Roman artists were more focused on realism and highlighting the spirits of their rulers, which was used to illustrate wealth and were more so decorative. Fifth, Romans stressed the civic virtues of citizens and placed much importance on the family unit. The original Roman gods, such as Janus, the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. He is usually depicted as having two faces, and the Lyres and Penates were household gods, were groups of deities or gods who protected the family in the Roman state. Next, the authority figure played an important and powerful role in Roman society. The paterfamilias, the oldest living male in a household, and of a wider extension, the leaders of the state and the emperor or Caesar, a title of imperial character. The city of Rome was a melting pot, and Romans liked to make lots of pottery from terracotta and coins from gold, silver, and bronze. And lastly, the Romans created a style of art that used Greek, Etruscan, and Egyptian to make new art, which is the Roman art. Roman art is a mixture of paintings, sculpture, architecture, and literature. Let's talk first about the paintings of the Romans. Roman artists refined the technique of painting murals, emphasizing natural themes such as landscapes and narrative themes drawn from literature and mythology. Okay. It covered a variety of subjects, including animals, still life, portraits, mythological and historical scenes, and of course, landscapes. Also, they developed new artistic subjects such as genre, still lifes, landscape, architectural motifs, and triumphal paintings. Genre painting, which depicted aspects of everyday life, though some depicted gods and goddesses at leisure. Roman still life paintings covered everyday objects including fruit and animals. Some landscapes were simple scenes of nature, while others showed scenes from mythology. Architectural motifs showed amazing illusionistic skill, for interiors seemed to extend into loggias and balconies overlooking gardens. These ornamented the walls of villas as frescoes, a type of mural on wet plaster with water-based paints, such as those found in Pompeii, or as intricate mosaics on the floors and ceilings. Surviving fragments of paintings are in the medium of fresco within the interiors of homes. Finally, triumphal paintings, depicting military victories against rival civilizations, gained popularity as Rome began to expand. Public paintings were mostly in the form of triumphal paintings used to commemorate Rome's military campaigns. Moving on to the sculptures of Romans. The characteristics of Roman sculpture. The Roman sculpture is known for its grandeur and realism. Many Roman sculptures depict ideas, things, or people that are important to Roman cultures, such as mythological scenes, historical events, and political figures. Roman sculpture blended the idealized perfection of classical Greek sculpture with a greater aspiration for realism. It also absorbed artistic preferences and styles from the East to create images in stone and bronze which rank among the finest works from antiquity. The statues filled an important role in Roman society. The Romans were skilled in creating realistic statues. They imitated Greek sculptures, but they were particularly good at making their sculpted images lifelike. It was, of course, related to ancestor worship, in which the image or statues of the deceased was venerated, for the Romans had a strong sense of family continuity. The portraits, especially as sculptures, also served to reinforce the image of the authority figure. The Romans liked to have different sculptures of them placed around Rome in the Roman Empire. There are busts of Julius Caesar, the sculpture of Augustus Caesar in full armor in the stance of Polycletus Lance-bearer, and many sculptured busts of patricians, statesmen, philosophers, and poets. Third is about Roman arts architecture. The most important architectural developments by the Romans were basilicas, baths, triumphal arches, and theaters. Unlike their Greek prototypes, which used lintel to hold them up, the Roman theaters were freestanding sculptures. Doric columns used in public buildings today, lifelike statues, murals, and mosaic floors within Rome can be traced back to Roman art. The greatest contribution of the Romans to Western civilization lay in the field of agriculture. The Romans added two more, the Tuscan order, with a column like the Doric with its plain abacus capital but without flutings, and the Composite order, consisting of a bell-shaped capital with two rows of acanthus leaves surmounted by scrolls, shallow and concentric rather than spiral volutes, and under an abacus. However, unlike the Greek post and lintel system, the columns in Roman structures were mainly ornamental and frequently appeared as engaged pillars as in the Colosseum. Additionally, The Romans frequently integrated the orders into one structure. The rounded arc, the vault, and the dome are crucial elements of Roman architecture. The Romans preferred the vaulting system of construction to the post and lintel system because the former could span larger spaces than the beam of wood or stone. The invention of the arc, particularly the rounded arc, served as the foundation for the vaulting system. Finally, the Romans invented the dome and favored the building of circular structures. Concrete was used to reinforce the structures even more. Romans demonstrated their practicality most clearly when it comes to community planning. In building their empire, from which comes the expression, all roads lead to Rome. By implementing a grid system of roadways intersecting at right angles with the Forum serving as the focal point and the Arc of the Triumph designating the main highway, the Romans attempted to transform conquered areas into representations of Rome. The diverse people of the empire converged in Rome as they sought their fortune in the prosperous metropolis. Huge public facilities were built to accommodate the idling masses who demanded bread and circuses. In contrast to the modest Greek temples, which were primarily used to contain the deity's image, the Roman structures were constructed with enormous crowds in mind. Additionally, buildings throughout Roman times served a range of purposes rather than being primarily used for religious ones. The Arc of Triumph, like the Arc of Titus, was one of the most basic buildings. It was built as a tribute to a general who had won a campaign abroad. It was ornately decorated with relief images honoring valiant. The aqueduct, like those in Segovia, Spain, and Nimes, France, was another building with a definite practical bent. The Baths of Caracalla was another example of functional architecture. Circular structures were valued by the Roman architects. The Roman Colosseum. The Roman Colosseum, a gigantic structure with a big seating capacity, is a fantastic example. Now partially ruined, it had 4 levels of rounded arches with engaged columns that serve an ornamental rather than a functional purpose, since they were not the main supports. The main feature within was the circular arena, which was the site of bloody gladiatorial combats and deadly structures of man with beasts. Additionally, there existed the Pantheon, a huge Roman temple where all gods were worshipped. Its facade featured the peristyle of a Greek temple, but behind it was a solid circular drum of concrete surmounted by a dome. At the apex of the dome was the oculus. The oculus symbolized the all-seeing eye or the sun in the heavens, and around it, in concentric circles, were depicted in relief the orbits of the 7 planets. And last but definitely not the least, the literature of the Roman. From the Greek dramatists, tragedy also further developed in the place of scenic. These were bloody and moralistic and permeated with a sense of caricature. The epic poem Aeneid by Virgil, which honors the majesty of Rome, is well known in Roman literature. Virgil traced the origin of the city of the 7 hills to the fall of Troy and the adventure of the warrior Aeneas, who fled from the burning city with his old father Anchises borne on his shoulders. The tragedy genre was further developed by the Greek dramatists in Seneca's plays. These were gruesome, moralistic, and tinged with caricature. And that's where my discussion ends. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something from me. See you on my next video. Have a good day!